in the gospel that Deacon Ray just proclaimed from St. John's Gospel. It's a key moment in the gospel. When you're reading St. John's Gospel, you get to this point, and everything changes. The total direction of Jesus' ministry changes. Because at that point, Jesus realized that the time had come, the hour had come, where he would enter into this saving work for which the Father had sent him. That he would begin to move in the direction of giving himself with infinite love for us on the cross, and then being raised up from the dead by God the Father. So at this point, there will be no more preaching after that point, John's Gospel. No more preaching, no more miracles. That was over with the raising of Lazarus. There would be no more healings. Now Jesus would be completely focused on carrying out the plan of his Father by giving his life for us. Imagine how Jesus felt about that. I'm guessing he was looking at that moment with great eagerness, because this was why he had come. This was why the Father sent him into the world, to give himself for our salvation. But I imagine, too, that in his humanity, Jesus felt great anguish. Jesus did not have a death wish. He had a life wish. He wanted life and the fullness of life, especially for us. And that was why he freely gave himself on the cross, that we might have life. He knew the time had come, because he was in a total union of mind and heart with his loving Father. And so Jesus trusted in the Father's plan, and proceeded on the way that led to his cross and to his resurrection. And so he says to us, unless the grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains just a grain. But if it dies, it produces much fruit. And what was the fruit that Jesus wanted to bear? He says it at the end of the gospel. He says, when I am lifted up from the earth, and he's talking about lifted up on the cross and in his resurrection, when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all people to myself. We're the fruit. As we come to him today with faith, we're the fruit that Jesus wanted to bear when he gave himself over to his enemies. So, you and I are called to die to selfishness and to fear, and to walk with Jesus, trusting in God the Father's love for us and God's plan in our life. And that's not easy. It's not easy. We want to be in charge. We want to be in control. But Jesus didn't save us by being in charge. Jesus saved us by surrendering himself with love to the Father's plan. And we move forward in our spiritual lives by saying yes to God's plan and by trusting in the Lord. So, for instance, how many families we have who have come to Mass today? Our parish is a family of faith, but we're also many families. And if you were to make a list of the things that are important in your life, I'll bet you almost everybody in this church would have family way at the top. You do anything for your family. But we reach a point when we realize that we can't guarantee the happiness of our family. We can do all we can to care for them, but that's beyond us. That's beyond us. We realize that, and then we give the family to God. We have to do it. And continue to do the best we can to care for them. But they're God's. So you want to help your family? When we bring up the bread and wine, put your family on the altar here today. And entrust them to the Father as Jesus trusted in his Father. Many of you work very hard at work to succeed, and you have very difficult jobs. Many of you go to school, and it's very, very difficult, and challenges that we use all your talents. But there comes a point when we have to leave the success to God. That's up to him, and just do the best we can. That's all God asks of us. To trust him and to do the best we can. Many of us pray to God each day, and we come to the Lord, and we want to feel that closeness to God. But sometimes when we come to our moment of prayer, for various reasons, we might feel alone, distant from God, sad and worried. That's a hard moment for us. But we continue to pray. Why? Because we trust. We believe that the Lord is with us, loving us, even when we can't feel his presence in that moment. We trust and we believe and we continue to pray. We're called to die to selfishness and to fear, and to live with obedience to the Father and in a spirit of faith. Unless the grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains just a grain, but if it dies, it produces much fruit.